So I'm going to quit. And he says, take a leave of absence. And I went to Lake Charles. It was after Thanksgiving. And I went to Lake Charles. I went to where I grew up. And I went to my dad's drugstore where I grew up. And for the first time, I saw my dad and my Uncle Jerry's drugstore that I started working at when I was 6 years old.
Mm.
So I knew the business. I knew everything about that business and never thought of it the whole time. But when I'm there, I'm seeing my dad and my Uncle Jerry for the first time, and they're not selling anybody. There is no marketing. People would walk in the drugstore and Dad and Uncle Jerry would pop their head. Hey, cuz, how you doing? My daddy called everybody cuz because he couldn't remember nobody's name. He called me number one because I was the oldest child of 7. He didn't call us by our name. He said, number 3, get me a beer. Hey, cuz, how you doing? He said, I'm doing good. You got a fresh pot of coffee on? And then my dad would go in the back of the drugstore where I used to get my spankings, and he would sit there and he would have a cup of coffee with his friend. And they talk about nothing.
Mm.
They talk about politics and fishing and hunting and what's going on and who needs help and what's happening. And then the man would leave without buying anything. Dad never tried to close the sale. He just left. And Uncle Jerry didn't even talk to the customer. So there was no TO.
Mm.
And I'm watching this for the first time and I'm going, 3.5 years in the business. Who come to visit me?
Mm.
Who come to have a cup of coffee on Saturday morning, talk about the football game or if the fish are biting? Who come to split a hamburger? Nobody. I made sure of it. Because everybody knows the way to get customers is you wait for the company to have the customers come to you.
Mm.
He was nice to everybody. He loved everybody. He was honest with everybody. You might not like what he said. But Dad would just tell people he was hilarious. He was so brilliant, right? And I'm thinking to myself, they teaching me the words to say to close somebody. They teach me the customer says this is what I say. Nobody listening to customer. They just responding. They're not understanding, Peter.
Yeah.
They're just listening to respond. Listen to respond. The outcome is to sell a car, not to help the customer, not to solve the problem. And so I went back to Houston and I said, I'm going to give it one more month. And if I don't sell more than 20 cars, I quit.